Ladies and gentlemen, my name is George, and this is the debut program of We the People, Let's Talk. We're going to cover various topics throughout the many, many weeks ahead of us. Economy, religion, education, health, history, constitution, you name it, and we're going to be talking about it. We're going to get opinions, we're going to get ideas, we're going to get individuals really into a mode where they can speak their piece. I'm also going to do a man on the street, doing interviews with the business people, with government officials, individuals that we want to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, because it's going to have an impact on all of us. We're talking about children, we're talking about adults, we're talking about senior citizens and everything else. Things that really matter. Okay, and I emphasize things that matter and that have a direct and even an indirect impact on us all. That being said, this debut program, I'm going to introduce a very close friend of mine, very knowledgeable, background is just tremendous. His name is Dr. Stanley Peter Davis. So SPD, I could call you SPD, right?
Yes, you may, sir.
Okay. You have a tremendous background. Just tell me about yourself, first of all.
Thank you very much, George. It's an honor and a joy to be here.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
I come from New York City, born, raised, and educated. I was born in the East Elmhurst section of the borough of Queens, which is important. It's right at the LaGuardia Airport, and the planes really were coming low. So I learned about flight by having to duck.
You're probably in the womb. You heard that noise?
Probably.
I don't know. Okay.
It was very, very close to LaGuardia Airport.
Okay.
And my parents would sometimes take me over there to watch them watch the airplanes take off and land. So it was great.
What kind of background do you have in school? And tell me why you became a physicist.
I became a physicist because I love the challenge, first of all. I love the idea of learning what reality is. What is reality? What is the components of reality? How the different components interact with each other? What is the role of human beings within that reality? How can you use or learn to use reality and all its components to make our lives better? I was very fortunate because my parents did something called parenting.
What is that? Can you explain that? Nowadays, it's kind of lost.
First of all, Christian morals are the foundation of the family. I was baptized Presbyterian. My parents were Baptist.
You mean to tell me you have a value system?
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Come on.
You have to have a value system. And they believed in the value of an education. They believed in thinking for yourself, getting an education. They believed in not just learning a lot, but learning how to learn and getting new knowledge and being an independent thinker. And yes, there were morals in the house.
An independent thinker?
Exactly.
Come on, I thought you liked the rest of us.
I
Okay?
can't tell
Regimented and all that.
Not in that house.
Independent, come on.
Not in that house.
Okay, go ahead.
Not
Continue.
not in that house.
Continue, sir.
But at the same time, no smoking, no drinking. Okay? When the sun came down, you came in the house. Nutrition was everything. My mother could cook like Michelangelo and Da Vinci painted. Very nutritious.
Let's get into it. My wife would always be able to cook collard greens and everything
Oh,
else, and
God.
I love that. So that was part of your menu?
Oh, they did collard greens, mustard greens, okra, turnip greens.
Now, you got to stop that, okay? We have to proceed. You're making me hungry, and we don't have anything here, all right?
That's exactly right.
Anyhow, what I'm interested in, how did you really become interested and motivated, highly motivated to become a physicist? What stirred that emotion in you?
It started very early when my parents took me to the Hayden Planetarium at about age 4. And they had to sit through multiple showings of Sputnik, which was the Russian satellite they were the first to put a satellite into orbit around the Earth. So the Hayden Planetarium showed multiple programs featuring Sputnik and the universe, and what ultimately will become the space race. I grew up during the space race and the whole race to the moon, not to mention various other satellites put into orbit to study the universe and for communications and many practical applications. I learned what the astronauts were and were not. They were human beings, but extremely gifted in what they do, and also learned the role of politics in all of this. Kennedy stood up and said in a speech to Congress that the United States was going to the moon, and caused a riot, or the equivalent of a riot. They thought it wouldn't happen for another 300 years.
300 years?
That's what the
Where the heck did you get
experts
that?
were saying.
Where the heck did you get that figure? 300 years?
That's what the experts were saying at the time.
Come on, you're pulling my leg.
Oh, not at all.
Okay.
This is why nobody can beat American ingenuity, American capabilities, American commitment.
And
you have to commit yourself.
Innovators.
And innovation. Yeah. And the private business community. They provided so much through our private business enterprise system and our government system of checks and balances.
Let me move forward on this. Mm-hmm. You're a Fulbright scholar, right?
That's correct.
Give me some idea of what a Fulbright scholar is all about and what you do, and how did it come about?
Oh, I loved it. It was absolutely a life-changing event for me the whole time I was living in Europe. Senator Fulbright wanted to make sure that wars on the scale of World War I and World War II never happened. He wanted to do his part to make sure that war of any kind would come to an end. So he wanted a program that would spread American values, American culture, and also feature cultural exchange from the United States to the rest of the world, and of course vice versa. So the idea was to make sure that by understanding and by resolving differences, we would never have war on that scale again. So many millions of people died in World War I and World War II.
Let's go on. I heard that there's a special day that you were honored in New York. Tell me something about that.
That's very, very true. That was great. I was in my apartment in Jamaica, Queens, packing to go to Europe. And I had everything was ready. I just had to pack up and go. And I got the phone call from the congressman's office and the representatives to come by. And I said, okay, fine. I had no clue I was going to get an award beyond...
so it was a complete surprise?
A complete surprise. New York One was there. New York One is owned by CNN.
Oh, okay. I'll leave CNN alone. Okay. Go ahead. Continue, please.
Okay. They were there, and I got this, Queens Chronicle reporters were there also. The Queens Chronicle is owned by the New York Daily News. And they gave me this proclamation. The proclamation was an honor for my research.
Do you still have that proclamation?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I got to see it one of these days.
Yeah, I've seen your
Seeing
scan.
is believing.
Exactly.
Trust but verify.
That's called reality.
Okay.
That's all part of reality.
Continue.
The proclamation is an act of Congress. And it was for my research, teaching and advising of students. A couple of students had met my standards for a recommendation letter into medical school with funding and so forth. So I would advise and a couple of times write the necessary recommendation letters to get them into MD, PhD, MT programs, internships at Caltech and so forth. The proclamation was also for business incubation ideas technology, running the STAR lab for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. What I did with that STAR lab had never been done before. I basically took methods of thinking and training and even knowledge at the doctoral level and made it understandable.
It's STAR Lab, not the STAR Chamber.
No, not STAR Lab. It's an inflatable planetarium. And I would put on these shows for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders and get them interested in space, the universe, space exploration, becoming an astronaut, and so forth.
So you were a spaced out guy, huh?
Exactly. The students were great, very, very gifted. First come, first served. And the proclamation was for Dr. Stanley P. Davis Day, December 2nd, 2008.
Do they still recognize this?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And furthermore, as a Fulbrighter in the State Department and the French Foreign Ministry, and even the Alfred E. Nobel Committee in Stockholm, they were aware of this. So that's all been recorded. And my parents were recorded into the National Archives of the United States for having produced me.
Fantastic. Now, I want to get into this new military force that was established under Trump.
Sure.
This, what was it called? Space Force.
That's exactly right.
What is it? Tell me.
Trump did an excellent thing by creating the Space Force.
An excellent thing? Come on.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on. That's baloney.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're pulling my leg.
Not at all.
Okay, okay.
Not at
Continue, please.
The Space Force is a brand new branch of the United States dedicated to protecting our military, defense, intelligence, and national security satellites, as well as our civilian satellites.
It is part of the Army?
It's part of all of our uniformed armed services, because all of our uniformed armed services depend on orbiting satellite systems for precision timing, precision time, knowing what time it is, and knowing where troops and equipment is.
So you think it's out of necessity?
Absolutely.
That Space Force was established?
Absolutely. It started as early as 1997 with Air Force Chief of Staff Fogelman, followed by former Defense Secretary Rumsfeld and his commission to create a Space Force within the United States Air Force as a preliminary step leading to an independent Space Department. So what former President Trump has done is exactly that. And ultimately, the Space Force will become an independent space service simply because of physics. Fighting a war in space is not the same as fighting it in the atmosphere of the Earth.
So we're talking about Star Wars type thing, huh?
Not exactly.
No? Well, I want to say it sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean that's what President Reagan was calling it.
Okay, there you go.
But Star Wars, well, it's nice. I love the movie.
Okay.
But this is to protect every single American citizen. Okay. The benefits are enormous. It will lower the likelihood of troops being lost, troops being sailors, Marines, Army, airmen, and so forth. You want to minimize the likelihood of any American soldier dying in conflict, and you want to protect every single American citizen from harm.
Let me ask you this. Are there any other countries in this great world of ours that have something similar to the Space Force?
Yes. China is one. I should say the People's Republic of China. They have what's known as the People's Liberation Army Strategic Support Force.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
Okay.
It is. Created just before the Russians did. So China and Russia have a space force. China is something of the order of 5 years ahead of us. I believe we can catch up in as little as 18 months if we commit ourselves. The whole thing is commitment. Commitment means putting in the time, having a plan. the resources, the ingenuity, which all the things we have. But it has to start with a commitment and recognizing the need for the Space Force.
Now, this costs money
It does.
in order to sustain, maintain, so on and so forth. Do
It's
you
not
think
cheap.
we can do that?
Yes, we can do it. It's not cheap. But at the same time, it's a high value investment. So if you pay a lot, you get a lot. And if you're saving human life and protecting human life, you cannot put a financial value on that.
So there are definitely positive military benefits of continuing Space Force.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about the spin-offs on this that possibly might impact the economy?
That is numerous and very important. First of all, the 45th Space Wing, located at Patrick Air Force Base.
Right in Brevard County?
That's exactly right.
That was my stamping grounds for, 25, 26 years, because I was a member of the public health unit there.
That's wonderful. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And they're right at the Kennedy Space Center in Titusville. And 45th Space Wing within the Patrick Air Force Base has been renamed as Space Force Base 1. So if you eliminate the Space Force or defund it, you eliminate jobs in Florida, not to mention all the various potential business contracts that can be awarded to people like myself and my company.
And what is your company, by the way?
Technology Transfer Solutions Incorporated.
And what do you do with it?
We are focused on high-tech consulting for NASA, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, the Space Force, the intelligence community, and national security. We also do business investments.
This entails cybersecurity too?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't do Space Force without cybersecurity. Okay. And I have to mention, the Chinese are way ahead of us in quantum key encryption.
How far in advance are they?
At least 5 years. And that means they're able to encrypt, among other things, financial transactions between continents, and you can't break the code.
When you say continents, I think of something else, being of old age.
Mm-hmm.
Incontinence. There we go. Better stop that.
Okay.
Anyway, what attitude should the current administration have or take toward Space Force?
They should continue to support Space Force in terms of providing the necessary personnel, the funding, the needed devices, and the development of the needed devices and instrumentation, as well as the personnel, the contracts, and the subcontracts.
Thinking of a comment that was made of the new White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, is it?
Yes.
When the question was posed about Space Force, she didn't know anything about it. What was your take on that? I'm sure that you saw it.
Yes, it was. I felt that should have been done better, and this means that the White House press secretary and the office of the press secretary is not talking to the people that know about the Space Force.
Yeah, she didn't even know who the point of contact was.
That's exactly right. She did not know who the point of contact. She seemed to think that it had something to do with the color of Air Force One.
You got to be kidding.
I'm not kidding.
So are they going to repaint it pink or what?
I have no idea.
Not red, white, and blue with the stars.
I think I like it the way it is. What I'd like to see is an Air Force One that is invisible to enemy radar. That's what I'd like to see. I think the Skunk Works Division of Lockheed Martin, also known as the Special Projects Division, can do it. But I would love to see, and I think the President should have it, for the benefit of all Americans, an Air Force One that is supersonic and invisible to radar. But that's a heck of a huge project for the Air Force.
You could probably take it on, though.
Exactly.
As a physicist, right?
Exactly.
Do your calculations and everything else like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
It has to do with diffraction of electromagnetic waves, which is not trivial.
Well, you're talking above and beyond my mental capability or mental acumen, all right? I'm not belittling myself, but hey, you're the man.
But I understand. Diffraction just means bending and the way light bounces off of a surface.
Got it. Okay.
That's what that is. And
now I have a recollection of my civics or physics class on that.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Enlightening.
You can even, first time I saw it was from the original Star Trek episodes where they encountered a cloaked Romulan warbird, which was great. The selected bending of light along the surface is exactly what Mr. Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, said. And that's what they've done, which is incredible. This is American ingenuity at its best.
And that's reality.
Exactly.
Actually, Star Trek, way up above and beyond space and everything else. And here they're actually talking something that was realistic.
That's exactly right. And this all goes back to what I said at the beginning. Physics ultimately is about what is reality. What is its components, the dynamics, the human role within this reality, and how can we use all of that to improve our lives?
I think the last question that I have is Space Force a good example of practical application for space exploration?
Yes, and I hope the Biden administration will continue to make America the leader in space exploration. The Trump administration had as its goal to make sure that the first woman to walk on the moon is an American woman, which I wholeheartedly support.
What about Mars exploration, really getting out into deep space?
Well, so far, the Biden administration has canceled Elon Musk's plans to go to Mars.
This is all part of that cancel culture.
It looks that way. I thought it was fortunate, but we'll see if he comes up with an alternative. But so far, Elon Musk's plan to go to Mars using his rockets has been canceled. I do not know if they are going to have an alternative.
All right. Listen, it's been a pleasure,
Sure.
a privilege having you, not only as a friend, but also as a doctor of physics. Thank you for telling me the background, giving me the background and everybody. And I want to conclude with this, that this is We the People, Let's Talk. And we will continue talking as long as that voice can be heard. And I guest don't. Tune in, hopefully every Friday, for our podcast. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.